Did you know that showering at a certain time could be deadly? It sounds like a dramatic line from a late-night health show, the sort of thing people scroll past without a second thought. But for Stanley Peterson, it wasn't a headline, it was the last moment of his life. Stanley was a 62-year-old retired firefighter, strong and steady, known for his discipline and loyalty to routine. Every morning before the sun even hinted at rising, Stanley would ease out of bed at 5:30 a.m., brew a cup of black coffee, and head straight into his bathroom for a long, steamy shower. It was his quiet ritual, a reset button before facing the world. On one cold March morning, that ritual ended in tragedy. Margie, Stanley's wife of 38 years, heard a sharp thud from upstairs just as she was buttering toast in the kitchen. It wasn't the usual creak or groan of old floorboards. It was heavy, final. She ran up the stairs calling his name. When she opened the bathroom door, her heart froze. Stanley was collapsed on the tile, the water still running, steam curling into the air like silent smoke. His skin was pale, his lips slightly blue. The paramedics came quickly, but there was nothing they could do. Stanley had suffered a massive heart attack. It happened in those very moments when he stood under the hot water, letting it run across his chest. For days after, Margie kept asking the same question. Why then? Why during the shower? The answer came quietly, unexpectedly, from a nurse who had seen cases like this too many times before. She handed Margie a folded research article and said, "You're not alone." Early morning showers can be dangerous, especially between 4 and 8 a.m. At first, it seemed absurd, but science paints a different picture. The human body goes through a set of powerful internal changes in the early morning hours. Between 4 and 8 a.m., as we wake from sleep, our system experiences something known as the morning surge. It's a natural process, but for many people, especially those over 50, it can be risky. During this window, blood pressure rises sharply, heart rate increases, and stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline flood the bloodstream to help the body gear up for the day. At the same time, blood vessels constrict and circulation patterns shift. These changes put extra stress on the cardiovascular system, which is already working hard to adjust to the body's transition from rest to wakefulness. Now imagine pouring hot water over that same system. Hot showers cause vasodilation, the sudden widening of blood vessels near the skin, while the core body is still under internal pressure from the morning surge. The result? A dangerous tug-of-war inside your vascular system. For some, that strain causes dizziness or fainting. For others, like Stanley, it becomes a fatal event. A multi-year study conducted by Harvard Medical School confirmed that heart attacks are significantly more likely to occur in the early morning, with a 40% spike in cardiovascular events recorded between 6 and 8 a.m. Bam. Many of them happen in bathrooms behind locked doors while someone is showering alone. And it's not just the heart at risk. Doris Williams, a bright and lively 78-year-old grandmother, used to say her 6 a.m. shower was the best part of her day. It wakes me up, makes me feel alive. But one icy January morning, as she stepped out of the tub, the world spun. She collapsed onto the tile floor with a loud cry and was found hours later by her neighbor. Doris had broken her hip. In the hospital, the doctor explained that she had suffered a drop in blood pressure, likely triggered by the contrast between the hot water and her early morning stress hormones. The surgery and recovery were long and painful. She lost her independence, couldn't walk unassisted for months, all because of something she thought was harmless. "Why didn't anyone ever tell me?" she asked again and again. The truth is, no one talks about this. It's not taught in health class. It's rarely mentioned by general practitioners. But now, more and more doctors are urging people, especially those in middle or older age, to make one simple change. Move your daily shower to mid-morning between 10 a.m. and noon. By then, the body has stabilized. Blood pressure and hormone levels are more balanced. The cardiovascular system is no longer in that fragile transition. In fact, during this window, warm showers can still provide the same comfort and relaxation without the hidden danger. It might seem like a small shift, but it could save your life. Save your life. For early risers, waiting to shower might feel unnatural at first. But think of it as a safety measure, no different than checking your seatbelt before starting the car. Your body is not fully awake when you are. It needs time. And that time could be the difference between life and death. We often think danger lives outside our home, in car accidents, random illnesses, or unforeseen events. But sometimes it hides in plain sight, in the simple things, in quiet tiled rooms where we feel the most private, the most at ease. Stanley didn't know. Doris didn't know. But now you do. But now you do. So tomorrow, skip your 6 a.m. shower. Give your body time to wake up, to regulate, to settle. Your heart, and the people who love you, will thank you for it. Coming up next, we'll step deeper into the hidden risks lurking in your bathroom. You've heard about burns from hot water, but did you know your water heater may be set at a level that could seriously injure a child in less than 5 seconds? One mother learned that lesson too late. Her story, and how to prevent it, is just ahead. Albert Reynolds never thought his body would turn against him. At 74, he still took pride in mowing his own lawn, playing chess with the neighborhood kids, and brewing the perfect pot of coffee. But on a humid July morning, that quiet confidence nearly cost him his life. The day began like any other. Albert rose just before 7, shuffled into his bathroom, turned on the shower, and stepped under the water. He'd barely reached for the shampoo when the room spun. His heart pounded, his knees buckled, and he slumped down onto the shower floor, dazed and disoriented, unable to move or speak. His wife, Jeanette, heard the thud and rushed in, finding him pale, shivering, his lips trembling as if something had short-circuited deep inside him. The doctors called it a near-cardiac event, triggered by something deceptively ordinary, hot water. As people age, their internal thermostat becomes less reliable. The body's ability to regulate temperature declines gradually, which means that what feels a pleasantly warm to someone younger might be overwhelming, even dangerous, for older adults. In Albert's case, the sudden rush of hot water caused his blood vessels to dilate too quickly, dropping his blood pressure and shocking his cardiovascular system. What should have been a relaxing shower instead became a battlefield inside his chest. The physician gently explained to Jeanette that the aging body doesn't adjust to temperature changes the way it used to. The heat from the shower, combined with a morning blood pressure drop, had thrown Albert's heart into chaos. This kind of scenario isn't rare. Hot water shock is a real and growing danger for aging populations, particularly when combined with subtle impairments in thermoregulation. The solution, thankfully, isn't complicated. After Albert's episode, the family had a plumber install an anti-scald device, which automatically regulates water temperature to safe levels. They also adjusted their water heater to stay below 120 degrees Fahrenheit. "I never thought temperature could be a killer," Albert said months later, recovering well. "But now I think of it like a seatbelt. You don't wait for a crash to put it on." And yet, temperature isn't the only invisible culprit lurking behind a morning shower. Many people forget that the medications they take, often first thing in the morning, are doing quiet, powerful work inside the body. For Patricia Sullivan, a retired schoolteacher living in Milwaukee, the warning signs came as a whisper, not a shout. Every time she showered, she felt a strange fog creeping into her head, a slow dizziness, a tilt in her balance. Once, she had to lean against the wall just to stay upright. It wasn't until she fainted, slumping against the vanity and bruising her shoulder, that her son convinced her to see a doctor. The cause? Her blood pressure medication, lisinopril, had been doing its job a little too well. It peaks in effectiveness about 6-8 hours after ingestion. Patricia was taking it at 6 a.m. and by 10 a.m., it was lowering her blood pressure right on cue. But when combined with the heat of her morning shower, the medication's peak effect turned into a perfect storm. Her doctor adjusted the timing of her dose and advised her to wait until after lunch for her daily shower. The dizziness vanished within days. "I thought the pills were helping me," Patricia said later, and they were. "But I was helping them hurt me without even knowing it." It's a subtle betrayal, when the very things designed to protect us create danger in the wrong condition. But perhaps the most overlooked element of this morning ritual is something even more basic than medicine or heat. Water, or rather, the lack of it. Dehydration doesn't always feel dramatic. It doesn't announce itself with sirens or red flags. But it quietly undermines the body's balance, especially in the morning. After 6 to 8 hours of sleep, most people wake up dehydrated. For older adults whose thirst signals weaken over time, This is even more pronounced. Dehydration leads to lower blood volume, which can cause a dangerous condition known as orthostatic hypotension, a sharp drop in blood pressure when you stand or move suddenly. Add a hot shower on top of that, and the result can be disastrous. Leonard Sullivan, Patricia's husband, coincidentally, had a brush with this exact scenario. Years earlier, he had started getting lightheaded in the mornings, especially when bending down or stepping into the shower. Unlike Patricia, he hadn't collapsed or fainted, but he did come close once, catching himself on the sink just before falling. A friend at his local community center, a retired nurse, asked him a simple question. "Are you drinking any water first thing in the morning?" The answer was no. Leonard had a habit of skipping breakfast and coffee until after his shower. At her suggestion, he began drinking a full glass of water as soon as he woke up. The change was instant. The dizzy spells stopped, his energy steadied, and his morning routine became something he could trust again. "It's funny," he later told Patricia, "that we fill our bodies with pills, but forget about the one thing we need most." These stories weave together a quiet truth. Our bodies, especially as we age, become more sensitive to the smallest disruptions: temperature, medicine. And while no one can stop aging, we can adapt to it with a little awareness and a few practical steps. Keep your water temperature below 120 degrees. Install an anti-scald valve if you haven't already. Time your medication to avoid overlap with showers, especially if you're on blood pressure drugs. 10. And most importantly, drink a glass of water before you even think about turning the faucet. It's not paranoia, it's prevention. The betrayal of the body is subtle. It doesn't come with a warning label or a flashing light. It happens in small moments, when your heart skips a beat in the steam, when your knees buckle near the drain, when your mind fogs as water flows. But with knowledge and a few thoughtful changes, those moments don't have to become disasters. You deserve a morning that starts with peace, not peril. And tomorrow morning, when the water warms and the light creeps in, let that moment be one of clarity, not collapse. In the next chapter, we'll dive deeper into a threat you may not even realize exists in your home. One that affects not just seniors, but children and young adults alike. The silent killer behind 300,000 visits a year, and how one mother's tragedy led to a nationwide change in awareness. Gregory Harrison had always been meticulous about his routines. A retired accountant, he lived by the clock. Wake up at 5:00 a.m. sharp, shower, tea, crossword, and a morning walk. But one winter morning, something betrayed him. Not his body this time, but the room he trusted most. The hallway light was out, but he didn't think twice. He'd walked this path 1,000 times. The bathroom, dimly lit by the dawn just beginning to peek through the blinds, looked the same as always, or so he thought. His left foot found the slick edge of a puddle near the tub, a small patch of water from a drip he hadn't noticed, and in a flash, Gregory's world spun. His shoulder slammed against the tile, his head struck the floor, and the pain was instant. A cracked rib, a bruised hip, and a concussion. It could have been worse. It nearly was. Later in the ER, a neurologist explained what many older adults don't realize until it's too late. Our vision doesn't just blur with age, it changes in subtle but dangerous ways. One of the most critical shifts is in something called contrast sensitivity, the ability to distinguish objects from their background, especially in low light. What a younger person might see as a faint shimmer on the floor, an older person's eye may register as nothing at all. Water, glossy tiles, a small shadow, these become traps in the dark. The eye, like the body, stops giving clear warnings, and the bathroom, with its hard surfaces and slick floors, becomes a perfect stage for disaster. A geriatric specialist once said, "The bathroom is the most dangerous room in the house for people over 65, not because it's unsafe, but because we assume it's safe." That assumption is what nearly took Gregory's life. His fall wasn't due to carelessness, but to a lack of contrast. He couldn't see the water because the floor, the walls, and the light all blended into a single, silent danger zone. After the accident, Gregory's daughter installed motion sensor night lights in the hallway and bathroom, added non-slip mats in a bright contrasting color, and placed safety grips near the tub and toilet. It wasn't about making the place look like a hospital, she said. It was about giving Dad back his confidence. He shouldn't be afraid of a room he uses every day. But vision isn't the only way a bathroom becomes a trap. Timing plays a cruel role too, especially in the early hours when help is furthest away. Beatrice Harper, 82, was the kind of woman everyone at church admired. Fiercely independent, quick-witted, and always dressed to the nines, she insisted on living alone in the small cottage her husband had built decades before. She kept the place spotless, even as her knees weakened and her hands trembled more with each passing year. But one morning, just before 5 woke up in a cold of a shower. There was no phone within reach, no emergency button, no one expecting a call until late afternoon. She lay on the cold floor for nearly 9 hours before her neighbor, worried she hadn't seen Beatrice collect her mail, knocked on the door, and eventually called for help. The paramedics said she was lucky. A fractured pelvis, moderate hypothermia, and dehydration, but no internal bleeding. Lucky. Beatrice didn't feel lucky. She felt betrayed by her home, by her body, and by the silence that surrounded her all morning while she cried out for someone to hear her. Her daughter later told reporters it was like the world paused and no one knew she needed help. After the fall, they installed waterproof emergency buttons in both the bathroom and bedroom. They also set up a simple morning check-in system. A call or a text between neighbors by 9 and 9 a.m. each day. It wasn't complicated. It didn't cost much. But it was the difference between lying helpless and being heard. These are not isolated stories. They are the quiet reality behind hundreds of thousands of emergency room visits each year. Slippery floors, dim light, early hours. All of them feel ordinary until they aren't. And the scariest part, you never know which morning it'll be. That's why prevention must feel just as ordinary as the danger itself. Motion lights that kick on when your feet hit the floor. Mats that don't just stop slips, but visually stand out against the tile. Safety bars placed where instinct leads your hands. And maybe most importantly, buttons that call for help when your voice can't reach anyone. Technology has made these options easier and more affordable than ever. Waterproof emergency buttons can be installed in minutes. Night lights don't require electricians. And neighbor check-ins don't need apps, just people willing to look out for one another. These small shifts turn a dangerous space back into a safe one. They transform helplessness into a plan. They transform help. But beyond the gadgets and grip bars, there's something deeper to be addressed. The illusion of control. Many older adults resist these changes because it feels like giving in, like surrendering their independence. But the truth is the opposite. These tools don't strip freedom, they protect it. They allow you to live alone longer, on your own terms, with confidence instead of caution. They take the bathroom, the quiet trap, and turn it into a fortress of safety. When Beatrice returned home after weeks of rehab, the first thing she did was walk, slowly but proudly, into her bathroom. She paused at the new rail, noticed the brighter light, and nodded. "It still feels like mine," she said, "only smarter. And that's the goal, isn't it? Not to fear the morning, or the light, or the floor beneath us, but to meet each new day knowing that the simple act of stepping into the bathroom won't be the start of a nightmare. It'll be just another part of a life lived safely, thoughtfully, and fully awake to the risks we can change." Every morning brings with it the promise of a new beginning. But as we've seen, it can also carry hidden threats, especially when something as simple as a shower becomes a high-stakes event. The stories we've shared aren't meant to frighten, but to illuminate the risks that many overlook until it's too late. From the dangerous surge of blood pressure that strikes between 4 to 8 a.m. to the way the body's ability to regulate temperature weakens with age. These are not distant possibilities. They are daily realities for millions. The bathroom, so often thought of as a place of privacy and routine, becomes a silent battlefield where age, medication, dehydration, and dim lighting converge to create a perfect storm. Yet here's the good news. These dangers are not inevitable. They are manageable, even preventable, with a few thoughtful shifts. It begins with understanding your body's rhythm, that early morning window when the heart is under the most strain and your blood pressure spikes naturally, is the worst time to expose yourself to the added shock of a hot shower. The risk is real, backed by Harvard research and echoed by cardiologists around the world. For those with high blood pressure or heart concerns, that combination of heat, steam, and vasodilation during the most vulnerable hours can turn routine into risk. By waiting until mid-morning, Between 10:00 and 12:00, you allow your body time to stabilize. Blood pressure settles, medications reach a safer plateau, and your internal systems are no longer under the duress they experience upon first waking. That single shift in timing could be the most protective change you make. Equally important is the water temperature. Lukewarm might not feel luxurious, but for the aging body, it's safer. As the nervous system becomes less responsive with age, the warning signs of overheating or shock may go unnoticed until it's too late. What feels like a warm embrace of steam can actually drop your blood pressure, induce dizziness, and set the stage for collapse. Albert Reynolds learned that lesson the hard way when his morning shower sent his heart racing to a near-fatal rhythm. His cardiologist didn't tell him to stop showering. He told him to turn down the heat, shift the time, and drink a glass of water before stepping in. That last part is critical. Dehydration is a silent saboteur, particularly in the early hours. After a full night without fluids, your blood volume is lower and your body more vulnerable to sudden shifts in position. That moment when you go from bed to standing, then to a warm shower, can trigger orthostatic hypotension, a sudden drop in blood pressure that leads to dizziness or fainting. Leonard Sullivan made it a habit to drink a full glass of water before entering the bathroom each morning. He didn't see it as a safety measure at first, just a way to ease his dry throat. But when his doctor later explained how it protected him from dizzy spells and falls, he realized how something so simple had become his silent guardian. Medication timing is another layer of this complex puzzle. Many common prescriptions, especially blood pressure drugs like lisinopril or diuretics, peak in effectiveness hours after they're taken. If you wake up and shower shortly after taking them, you may be stepping into the most vulnerable window without realizing it. That's what happened to Patricia Sullivan. For weeks, she felt lightheaded during her morning routine, blaming it on age or stress. But her doctor adjusted the timing of her pills and suggested she wait 2 to 3 hours before showering. The results were immediate. No more dizzy spells. No more fear of falling. Just a calm, safe start to her day. But even with all the personal adjustments in place, we can't overlook the space itself. The bathroom must become a partner in your protection. Vision changes with age, contrast fades, shadows blur. The water on the floor that once caught your eye now hides in plain sight. That's why Gregory Harrison's fall wasn't due to carelessness, but biology. A few well-placed motion-activated lights, high-contrast bath mats, and safety grips can turn that same room from a hazard to a haven. Combine that with waterproof emergency buttons installed near the toilet or shower, and a check-in system with a neighbor or family member, and you're not just reducing risk, you're reclaiming control. Prevention isn't about fear, it's about freedom. Freedom to live independently, to maintain your routines, and to protect the dignity that comes with aging on your terms. When you build a routine that considers your body's changes, respects your medication's power, and transforms your environment into an ally, you're not just extending life, you're enriching it. One woman, 76-year-old Marjorie Langston, said it best after recovering from a fall that could have taken everything. I used to think these things, handrails, lights, even the button I wear around my neck, were signs I was getting old. But now I see them as armor. I'm not giving up my independence, said. I'm gearing up to keep it, and that's the heart of it all. The goal isn't just to avoid danger. It's to empower you or someone you love to meet each day with confidence. To step into the bathroom not with hesitation, but with assurance, with hydration, with care, with safety. A new routine rooted in science and shaped by love can be the quiet difference between risk and resilience, because sometimes saving a life doesn't take a miracle. It just takes a morning done right.